Hey everybody, welcome to Thought Jar, where the thoughts are so deep they'd scare Aristotle. What do you think of that?
Did you just write that?
I did write that. That's
Dude.
definitely not staying.
Dude, that was sick.
That won't be in next week's episode, but whatever. My name is James Benefiel, and I am joined by my wonderful co-hosts, Adam Bourne and Ryan Benton. Fellas, how we doing?
Great.
I'm doing pretty
Good.
good.
We just had a long conversation just now.
Yeah,
that we're
so-
gonna have to cut.
Yeah, but we're going to continue now into the conspiracy podcast, which I'm really excited for. Actually.
So I'm also really excited for this episode. I think it's gonna be a good one.
Because nobody's ever done a conspiracy podcast before.
Never once, ever, not one time.
Not one time. But how's life been treating you, man?
It's been good. Holidays are rolling up, so I've got a lot of not a ton of traveling to do, but I've got some traveling that needs to be done. Really not a lot to report since the last recording. It would be cool if I had like a major life update to provide.
Business as usual.
Yeah. Or it would be really bad if I had a major life update. So it's either one extreme or the other. It's never like, this is a major life update that I'm kind of like, about, you know.
We're recording this the day or the week before Thanksgiving, and it will come out after Thanksgiving. So,
So
for all you people who ate turkey, how's it going?
So, put in the comments. How was that turkey?
How was that turkey?
Yeah. Was it good turkey? Bad turkey? Dry
Did you have
turkey?
ham?
Yeah.
Did you have a surf and turf
I
Thanksgiving?
never understood why some people do ham.
I don't know.
Like it's Turkey Day.
Right.
It could be like a sensitivity to turkey or something.
Or you just don't like turkey.
But if you're
You just don't
sensitive,
like
that
turkey,
makes sense. But if you're sensitive to turkey, how are you not sensitive to ham?
Well, I guess that's true.
I have heard of people having pork allergies, but I don't know
Because pork, that makes sense. But it's Turkey Day.
Yeah.
Because whenever someone's like, "Oh, a holiday ham for Christmas or something," because I'm not a huge ham guy. I don't really I like especially like the ham that is for the holidays where it's like a big thick slab of meat. It's like that doesn't really tickle my fancy.
Roast beast. Roast beast. A rump of beast.
some beast rump.
Yeah, I would
Some
love some
beast
beast
rump.
rump. That's my favorite meal. Oh, so
I'm salivating over some
Delicious.
beast rump right now, dude.
What about you? Anything crazy
Yeah,
going
what's
on?
going on with you, James?
Let's say a friend of mine just got engaged.
Oh, no way.
Do you guys remember Bree's former roommate Keller?
Yeah.
Oh,
You got engaged?
In the with all love, by the way, when I say this, in the gayest way possible, they proposed to their girlfriend.
Nice. That's cool, man.
They went up to Toronto to
Nice.
the Eras tour date that Taylor Swift was doing,
Nice.
and Keller quite literally got down on one knee and proposed during Love Story.
Oh my god.
When he
Wow.
kneeled on the ground and pulled out a ring and said, the video is perfectly lined. Like, they could not have done a better job
That's cool, man.
of lining that
That's
up.
awesome.
But yeah, they got engaged, I think, yesterday during the concert. So
Nice.
huge congratulations to Keller and Lauren, you gaybos.
Nice. Love to see it. That's awesome.
The
Yeah.
gay bows.
The gaybos.
Nice.
Love to see it.
Cool,
And-
man. That tour, by the way, did you guys see how much that tour grossed? Over $1 billion.
a lot of money.
$4 billion.
I don't even know if that's an accurate figure as of right now, because isn't it still going on, or is the Eras tour like done? Did they
No,
finish it?
it's still. So to my knowledge, she does rounds of tours. Well, she'll tour, she'll take a break, she'll tour, she'll take a break.
Right.
I think this is the second round of North American tour.
That's crazy.
So
man.
she's already done the world once,
Yeah.
I think, and now she's doing North America again.
Now the album that she dropped, because I'm not obviously a huge Taylor Swift follower. That album was called Midnights, right? No.
The most current one she's released is I believe the Tortured Poets Department.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
right. What was that an album? Midnights?
Yes.
It was.
I don't know.
Okay, so the last 3 Taylor Swift albums, I think, are the Tortured Poets Department, Midnights, and then Evermore,
don't
maybe?
know.
Please don't
She released-
come
Don't fact
come
check
for
me.
us.
Like
We don't
several
know.
versions
Please,
of
Swifties, don't hurt us.
the Poet Society one, but
She did release a lot of versions of it.
Because she wanted to be on top, man. She's the
She
top.
is definitely on top.
She's
I don't
the
think-
top of the fucking pop.
I don't
game.
think she needed to re-release those episodes. She could have done none of that
Yeah.
and still been the top because she's
Yeah.
Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
No, and I definitely like the majority of my Taylor Swift listening. I don't seek Taylor Swift out.
Yeah.
No.
If it's on, it's on. There are a handful of her songs that I'm like, ooh, this song's.
I like
this
some of the
song's
old
really lit.
bops. I like the classics.
Dude. Cruel Summer.
Wasn't it the
Good
Red
song.
album? Was that the one that had a lot of? Was that what it was called?
I don't know.
The Red album? I honestly don't know.
Red is an album.
Red. Okay, so that was like that's like an older one, right? Or was that the one where after she kind of stopped like being good, from like a lot of perspectives? Like a lot people think after that album she kind of sold out.
I don't know.
Ryan, what are we seeing here?
Red came out in 2012.
Okay.
Oh, 100% no, because she had self-titled, and then Folklore,
Okay.
and then I think Red. No, that's not
What
it.
album was Love Story on?
I think Folklore.
It was like her first one, right?
That's her second one.
her second one.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Like most.
Early Taylor Swift.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Most
really
I've
early.
heard from people who are big Taylor Swift fans or were their claim is that after the Red album, she subsequently didn't put out anything incredibly noteworthy, whereas everything from the Red album and prior was like that was what made Taylor Swift her.
Well,
I mean, I don't know.
I'd say she goes through eras.
Yeah. Sarah's cool.
You could. Oh my god. You know what? What if she went on a tour and just called
Like
it
for all of her eras.
Yeah.
Dude, we did it.
There is an idea there that is forming. You could even say there is a thought.
You could
There
say
is-
you
there
could
is a
say
thought
that
there.
that's $1 billion thought. Guys,
Dude.
we should call Taylor Swift.
Yeah. Anyway, Taylor Swift,
She's-
incredibly high grossing artist.
Yeah. She'll be the
Hats off
guest,
to her.
guest on our next episode.
Yeah,
So
we
cool.
actually secured her. Yeah.
Yeah, we got her.
Crazy.
Said she's gonna release her new song
Yeah.
right here on
Yeah.
this couch.
She's gonna
Right
call
here
it.
on
right
this
here.
bench.
She's
Yes.
gonna call it Garfield in a jar.
We got
And name it after that Garfield that's
Yeah,
over there.
I didn't take Garfield out of the jar because he's stuck. By the way, so
Can you not get him out? Can you not get him out?
he's pretty good in there. You guys can maybe
Do you think-
try to get him after the episode.
Do you,
But
think, Garfield's always gonna be in that jar, or are we gonna have to break the jar to get Garfield out?
we'll probably have to. Well, I could probably get him out. It's just gonna take some
You
work.
don't want to rip Garfield, man.
I
That's-
don't. He's a freaking gem.
Mm-hmm.
So
Jim.
Feels like there's been a lot of weird culture with animals being stuck in jars,
like
like
Like,
brony culture.
brony culture.
Oh,
or are you
do
talking?
you not know about the joke
My
about
Little Pony in a jar.
Rainbow Dash in the jar?
Oh.
So it's really, really gross.
Let me look
And
it up. On
You can just
Google.
Yeah, just look it up. We don't have to
Go to
delve into
Reddit.
it. To the people who
What
know
do I
that
look up?
story, I'm so sorry that you have to know that story.
Yeah.
What do I look up?
Just look up Rainbow Dash in a jar.
Yeah. My Little Pony in a jar.
And then just
whatever.
look at the image that comes up.
You can go to r/pics or something, and
It'll be there.
I don't know. Yeah, it'll be there.
But the joke of like putting something in a jar has been beaten to death at this
For
point.
sure.
But you know
Yeah.
what? In my opinion, it never gets less funny.
Yep.
Like no, don't put that in a jar. Or like don't abbreviate CP
Yeah.
because like
yes.
no don't do that.
Yes. So it's the same thing with like
Wait, does that come?
yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I was
That
gonna
is
say.
that is jizz.
That is yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Epic.
So you're welcome. Now that
So
you've
now
seen
that you
that is
yeah
just jisms.
yeah
Jism.
yeah, and it's gross and
semen.
it's old and I think that's
When
like heavy internet lore.
When
Yes.
was that meme? When did that?
Oh my
come?
god, like early 2010s.
Whenever the most recent cartoon was coming out, I don't know.
Was it really? Was it that recently?
That's when the jar jokes started
I don't even know.
because like yeah, it was bad. Because then you also have that guy who like broke the jar in his butt.
One man, one jar.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then there's
That was One Man One Jar was like late 2000s.
yeah.
I thought that were sometime in the 2000s. That was definitely more. That was less recently than.
Oh, 100%. But essentially on the internet, if there's a mason jar, there's some reference that can be made towards it, and they're all just disgusting. Just abysmal. The worst.
Not good. Brian, what about you? We've been John. What's been up with you, man?
I've been working on a movie for my cousin.
Yeah, you're editing it, right?
Yeah, I'm editing a movie. It's just like a fun movie that he wanted to do before he left.
It's like a passion project.
Yeah, he's going back to school and he's traveling around the world. So
Nice.
um,
That's been taking up quite a bit of your time too. I know
yeah,
you're
I've-
kind of I mean, not like thrilled to be done with it, but once it's done, you'll be able to.
That weight will be off the chest.
Yeah. So, the past week I haven't really been able to make any thought jar stuff. So I want to make thought jar stuff again.
Sorry, jarheads. We haven't really been putting a lot of content out.
Yeah, we haven't been content farming as hard as we wanted.
Yeah, we're sorry. Don't worry.
We all have day jobs and things that we do outside of this. So
yeah, it's tough. But
this is literally.
This has been fun. This has been so much fun.
This is the for fun part.
We have literally never once, just as an aside, thought that this was going to be a moneymaker or anything more than just like a passion project where we just 3 lifelong friends just sit down and we just spew conjecture. That's all that this was supposed to be.
Yap for about an hour.
Yeah, we just a yap sesh.
And then it's like anything extra is like a bonus where it's like, oh, hey, like these number of people have watched this episode. It's like, oh, that's awesome. But like we're not.
Because like I think the coolest thing is that there are people out there like us that want people to just to at the lowest tier of what we're doing, just give people something to listen to while they work or do XYZ tasks that they might want to not think as much about, so they can listen to us think about things on the thought jar.
Yeah. Say the jar is open and we're handing thoughts out, dude.
Yeah.
Come get some.
Yeah. Dude, for sure.
Say, but we're not here to make a buck. We have jobs.
Yeah. And also, this gives us the opportunity to get better at just talking to one another because, like we had said in the pilot, this is literally just like us essentially catching up from like years of not being around each other while we were in college.
Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, like hopefully it's like, oh, I get to see Adam and Ryan today. Oh, that's awesome.
Epic.
It's like 3 years ago, I maybe got to see both of you 4 to 5 times a year.
It's much harder.
That's high end too.
Yeah.
And that's probably an exaggeration.
There was probably one year when or at least a couple of years when I personally didn't see either of you guys like at all.
Because I know that we always text and stuff. But there's no replacing like being in person and hanging out.
Yeah.
So also I guess this podcast is also just an excuse to hang out.
Yeah.
For an hour. Talk.
Yeah.
Please.
We should just become Mr. Beast too. Because Mr. Beast is under a lot of pressure now.
I don't want to be.
So what you're saying is you want to fill the void that will eventually come when Jimmy's empire collapses.
Yeah, crazy.
Well, because when you get to a certain point of popularity, it's like whether or not you've been doing something wrong, they will find a way to scrutinize you.
No, it's not even that. It was that a lot of the contestants were coming forward and saying that his giveaways were fake. That there was a lot of malpractice when it came to the treatment of the contestants on his shows, how he wasn't feeding people.
Oh, well,
the deprivation of basic human rights.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Sorry, my bad. I was just under the impression people didn't like Mr. Beast because he was successful.
Because he got the Feastable bar?
Well, I didn't know about the lunch leave debacle. That is crazy. It's like,
what was the debacle with lunch?
So first and foremost, he branded himself with Logan Paul and KSI.
Yeah.
Right.
So very obviously for a certain demographic.
10-year-olds.
Yeah.
10-year-olds.
And then, so they touted it as, like, well, there are no preservatives like there are in Lunchables, so it's obviously better. And then, lo and behold, the reason why there are so many preservatives in Lunchables is so when you open it, your cheese hasn't molded after a week.
Yeah.
But a lot of people were opening their Lunchleys and just
mold.
Covered in mold.
I believe that. I believe that.
Because the whole point, I think Lunchables are touted as a product that you can just, like, hold in the fridge and then pop it in the lunchbox.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, just like have it as a snack or an easy lunch.
There's a reason preservatives are in food as well to preserve the food.
It's not preservatives isn't necessarily a dirty word.
It's not like
there are a lot of bad things pumped into our food today
for sure,
but preservatives aren't necessarily one of them.
Yeah. I think people like to use buzzwords and they like to run with whatever sounds good.
It's like, oh, gotcha. It's like, no.
Yeah. I mean, food is a big, in and of itself is a big buzzword. You know, people like to talk about food and they're like, ew, what do I talk about?
Good food, fast food, greasy food, bad food. It's like,
there's some clip that came out of this guy. He was talking about like, oh my God, like all these seed oils and preservatives. I'm going to speak very briefly of this because this is like, obviously like there's a lot of concern with like food now and, you know, the corporations and people that oversee the quality of our food and the processing of our food, but there was a guy who was like, oh my God, all of these things like seed oils and glyphosate and nitrates and, preservatives and carrageenan and stuff like that, and, emulsifiers. It's like, oh, it's just way too much. I have to look at all my labels, and it's so much to remember what I can't eat. There's so much to remember, and I'm just like, well, now you're right back to square one, right? Because, that's basically what an eating disorder is, so you think that you're looking out for yourself, but you're so hyper fixated on what you can and can't have. And I understand that your thought is like, well, there's a lot of bad things for me out there, but bad is so subjective. That's where I'll leave it. I think that people
to the point where you've circled back into being unhealthy.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of research that people should do for themselves, but people like to claim they're doing research when all they're doing is entering one query into Google, and they're going with the top search result or the AI overview, and they're like, yep, this is exactly what it is. This is 100% can't be wrong. So anyway,
because
it's just that hyperfixation on, what you're consuming.
Yes, people just have to be aware. I think people just are not as aware as they could be. They think they're being aware, but a lot of the time when you are attempting to fulfill all of your daily requirements and like nutrient requirements, you need to eat whole foods. And a lot of the time when people are following vegetarian or vegan eating routines, they're eating very processed. And so while you might be eating in that fashion, you're getting a lot of sodium, you're getting a lot of saturated fat, not typically with a vegetarian or vegan diet, but a lot of processed food does have a lot of fat, unnecessary fat. It has a lot of sugar and sodium. And so while you're eating all of these plants, the whole point is if you're eating naturally, you're not intaking a lot of these extra sugars and a lot of this extra sodium.
It's just because something says that it's vegan or vegetarian doesn't automatically mean, oh, this is good for me.
Right. I think food, this is a lot of what I studied when I was in college was food and exercise, and it's such a difficult topic to talk about because so many people have food anxiety and they're constantly always like, I read nutrition facts labels. I do it. I know a lot of people that do it. I know a lot of people that don't do it, but regardless of what you do, I think that as long as you're happy, I think that's the biggest thing. If you're miserable because you're always trying to avoid something, I think there's innately something wrong with how you're eating.
Like if you're like counting calories to the T and like monitoring your intake to the point where it's like if eating becomes a chore and not just something that you like enjoy doing, that like, okay, you've gotten to the point where it's probably like a habit probably.
If that makes to play devil's advocate, I will say if that sort of eating makes you happy and there's like a logical aspect that you enjoy by like counting calories, go for it.
By all means.
By all means, do that. Go for it. But if it makes you unhappy,
which is a way more eloquent way of putting it.
Change needs to be made for sure.
Yeah.
So I think that's a pretty good segue into talking about conspiracies. To be honest, so we were talking about food and whatnot.
Because people always conspire about what they're putting into their body.
100%.
Like, Red 40 is actually a way for the government to like control their brainwaves.
FD and Yellow 5. What is it? FD and C Yellow 5.
I just know Red 40. That's the
Red
one.
40. There's a blue. I'm sure that's awful for you.
Blue 5 or something. But now we're gonna conspire about something else. Some things.
Something malicious may be brewing.
Yes. So I think we had said. So we're just gonna be talking about some conspiracies. Are on the platter.
Conspiracy theories. I was gonna go first because I had a really short one that I just thought was funny, and also my partner brought it up in a comment on the last video. Leah Michelle can't read. That is the conspiracy theory.
So who is Leah Michelle?
Have you guys watched Glee?
I have not. No, I have not.
Well, she's like one of the main characters on Glee, and she was a pretty big actress at the time. It was 2000s. She's not a very good person from what the internet has said about her, and just like her coworkers as well have said bad things about
like on set.
Yeah, on the set, she was just not a very good. Like she basically plays
like Michael Cera.
Is Michael Cera a bad person?
I've heard Michael Cera is really hard to work with.
Really?
There's anyway, there's a whole clip of him like yelling at yelling at the director. I don't remember what movie it was for, but yeah, it was funny.
Can you imagine getting chewed out by Michael Cera?
Fuck, it was so funny. Like, I laughed really hard.
Dude, I'm getting yelled at by Scott Pilgrim right now.
Yep.
So I thought I'd show you just like 3 of these clips. She at award shows will she'll look at the card, but she'll always say the name after the person next to her says the name. So she doesn't know. I think it's because she can't read. Like, I'll just show you.
Oh,
guys.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Goes to
Don Roy King.
Saturday Night Live.
Your choice movie villain is Donald Sutherland.
And your choice female artist is Taylor Swift.
And your choice for favorite action movie actor is
Is she supposed to be reading these?
Chris Hemsworth!
Yeah, so I think so.
Movie
I
actor, sci-fi
believe
fantasy
so.
is Josh Hutcherson.
Yeah,
So I don't want to like.
Like, is she supposed to be the one saying the name? That's I don't know.
I don't know. She didn't say a name in like a single one, unless it was after the person next to her that
Right.
would say it. I went on Reddit to like look into what people had to say about it.
To do some digging.
Yeah, I don't think it's true.
Right.
Like, obviously, it
Seems like a really far reach.
It's definitely just like a funny like conspiracy, like more of a light conspiracy theory, I would say, because like there's no way.
Not anything
I
like
think-
mind-bending.
I think she was homeschooled, but
'Cause
yeah,
even
how would she be able to memorize lines?
Even if,
unless they were like fed to her through like an earpiece
Yeah.
or some shit.
but like even if you're not like the strongest reader, like
Yeah.
there's a point where you've seen a word enough times, like you can memorize the word.
Yeah.
I do know that especially in like today's climate in the world, there are a lot of kids who just flat out can't read.
Yeah.
Because they're taught not to like phonetically sound out words, but rather just to memorize them.
What?
Yeah. So like you'll have kids who will see a word and not even have an inkling or a clue on how to like to say it, because they weren't taught to sound it out. They were taught to memorize words. And like so like common phrases like, oh, I know this word is the because I've heard it said a bunch of times. Like that's how they learn how to like read and write. Which is why there's been such a dip in like the quality of writing and reading education in the world or in the United States today.
Man. I did not know that that's how they were instructing students on how to.
Yeah, there's been a big pull away from phonetics.
Well, also that inherently reduces the creative ability of students because you don't really know how to build sentences and how to actually get the things that are in your head out onto paper correctly and with an adequate amount of description. You're kind of just like, oh, well, I'm going to use the word great because I see the word great everywhere, you know?
Because then you can take that a step further and go into how because of the constant amount of stimulation that kids today are getting, that unless they're constantly being stimulated, they don't know what to do.
Right. It's a dopamine issue.
It really is, and I think we're getting to that first batch of kids they're probably like late high school, early college at this point, and on down, that are the kids of millennials who didn't know how damaging giving
an iPad,
like an iPad or a phone to like keep them quiet or keep them entertained. Like, yeah, you are keeping them busy, but is the quality they're intaking, is that going to help their forming brain, or is it just going to riddle them with like an attention deficit?
There are so many branches that we could grow from this conversation, and I was just talking, I don't remember who I was having this conversation with, but I was just having this conversation with somebody, and I think the only thing that I'll say in defense of the parents who give technology to their kids, there is not much I can say or will say, but I will say, if the child does have some sort of attention disorder, or they are particularly unruly and you bring them out, that does make it quite hard for you to have an experience as a family. And I know people in rebuttal to that will say, well, then just don't go out. But that's like, that's hard, because as a family, if you're confined to the home because of one kid, if you have
That's
like...
not going to be healthy.
Yeah, for sure.
Saying whenever I say that there's too much screen time for kids today, that is not an indictment of the parents.
For sure.
Because also today it's really hard to not be super busy. Like I don't know what the percentage of like both parents having jobs, but like when you're working all day, what's your kid gonna intake?
Right.
Like how can you control that? Like, and obviously there are good examples, bad examples, good parents, bad parents, whatever. Who am I to decide? I'm not a parent.
Yeah, likewise.
So like I can't tell you
my
one
place.
way or another. Like I know that when I was a kid and we went out, from like the first probably 5 years of my life, my mom would bring in coloring books and crayons and markers for us to play with, and then when the meal came out, put them away, eat, and that was the end of that. When I got a little older, I got like a Nintendo DS and stuff, but I wasn't allowed to bring it into the restaurant. It had to stay in the car.
There's something inherently sad about the way the family unit tends, not always operates, but tends to operate in this age of modernity with all of the screen access and technological access that kids have and are given. I mean, like kids people in our age, early to mid 20s, like in the mid 20s of their lifetime, definitely look down on parents who give technology to their kids because that's not how we were raised. But again, it's a new age of parenting that has its challenges and its struggles, and it's just not something that we know because who's to say, and also who's to know what sort of struggles we will encounter when people our age start becoming parents, right? Yeah. And they're like 30, early to mid 30s,
and so obviously from our viewpoint, it's really easy to be like, well, it's technology. You shouldn't give them technology. Well, it's like it's way more.
It's much more multifaceted.
Way more layered than that blanket statement.
For sure.
Yeah. And we could 100% talk about that for the next 40 some odd minutes.
Yeah.
But
we sprouted that from Leah Michelle.
I would know. We're talking about how kids can't read, the literacy rates down.
These kids can't read.
God damn.
iPads are killing the kids.
God damn it, the kids.
Those damn iPads.
But James, do you have how many conspiracies do you have?
So there are. I just have the one that I'd like to talk about because I love conspiracies. Who doesn't?
Same.
Like the what if of it. Like,
I know.
Why did it become a mystery in the first place?
Yeah.
So I thought about stuff like Skinwalker Ranch, where it's like extraterrestrial, or like I think there's also a Native American facet to that story where it's like, the cryptid. It's like the cryptid, the Skinwalker, and where that comes from. Or like specifically for Skinwalker Ranch, there were a lot of supposed UFO sightings within a 50-year span, to the point where it's like become this part of like media where it's like, oh my god, like is it real? Is it true? Is it fake?
Where is Skinwalker Ranch?
Skinwalker Ranch is, I believe, out in Utah. And there's like a big deep story with that, but I thought about it, and when I looked it up, I couldn't find like enough to talk about.
And it's like substantial amounts of information.
Yeah, it's like like there is plenty, but it's all the same. Like, well, they had a UFO sighting here, and here, and it's like, okay, well, that's cool and all, but it's not the most exciting thing to talk about
for sure.
And then another big conspiracy that I really like is the DB Cooper. Which is,
I feel like I know what this is.
It's the one where mystery guy on a plane
jumped out into the middle of the
that
was his name. DB Cooper.
DB Cooper.
Man, I love that.
It's so cool. It's like he just like up and disappeared.
An unidentified man who hijacked Northwest Orient Airlines flight.
Yes,
that's the one.
Had a bunch of money and parachuted out into the Northwest wilderness.
And they never found a body. What? Because he jumped out in the middle of a storm.
Oh, is that what it was?
I think so. And people theorize that if it's the guy they think it is, that he was like a paratrooper.
That makes sense.
So they're like, oh, like he has experience jumping out of planes. Like, oh, he thought he'd be fine jumping out randomly. But they never found the money. They never found a body. They didn't find anything.
Are you seeing how much money it was, Ryan, that he stole and how he got it? It was a substantial amount.
To my knowledge, he told, while they were in the air the first time, he called a stewardess and was like, I have a bomb and I'm going to blow everyone here up if we don't land and you get me money. So it became a pseudo hostage situation.
Wow.
So they landed. I don't remember where they landed, but they land, and he's like, "All right, so the pilot and the stewardesses have to stay. Everyone else can get off. I want my money." So
he demanded 4 parachutes and $200,000.
Yes. Did he get it?
We got it.
He got it. Okay, right.
Jumped off the plane and never was sighted again.
Because he jumped off with the money, and they just never found any of it.
Do you think he just like
100% what happened? 100% what happened is he didn't know where the hell he was. He probably landed in the middle of the wilderness, and some bear probably ate him. Mm-hmm. That's the most likely theory, I think.
He probably got lost and died.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Well, the thing is, bears don't eat like. From what I know, again, I'm not an ecologist, I'm not a zoologist, but from what I know, bears with a carcass that large, they would not eat the whole thing. They would definitely leave something traceable that someone would be able to find, especially if he were to have like non-edibles on him, like clothes. That's my thought.
I don't know, man. How
You know,
hungry was that bear?
How hungry was that bear?
Are we talking Leonardo DiCaprio bear, where he doesn't really eat him at all?
Cocaine.
He just kind of like chews them up a
Right.
little and spits them out.
Right.
Like, yeah, we don't know.
What was that
man.
movie? The
Paddington.
Paddington.
Benjamin Button. No,
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
the Revenant.
Oh,
Yeah, oh,
Revenant.
okay,
The
my
Revenant
bad,
bear.
yeah.
Like he kind of ate him a little bit, but
Leo
Just
not
chew it up
really.
a little bit, you know.
Yeah,
give
or
him some-
cocaine bear. Where he
some
like,
love, some
Cocaine
love.
bear
Yeah.
is probably the bear that he got eaten by.
Yes.
Yeah, but regardless, they never found anything. So
Yes,
what-
yeah.
He's either dead or he's still out there in
and
the
this I
wilderness.
think was the 70s.
He's probably dead.
He's dead.
Yeah.
Oh,
exactly.
Well,
he's so
that, by
dead.
now he's dead. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, and the money's gone.
Yeah.
If he even got to spend a cent.
Yeah.
Turned into compost
Turned into compost.
on the forest floor.
Ain't we all? But despite all of that, the actual conspiracy I wanted to talk about is the Paul is dead theory. And for people who don't know anything about this, so Paul McCartney, pretty famous name, pretty famous guy, you know, if I do say so myself.
He's got some claims to fame.
Yeah,
I'd say.
you know, the Beatles. Don't know if you've heard of them. They're pretty big.
As we've spoken about before in the pilot episode.
Probably,
Is that a callback?
probably in both episodes.
I think so,
if I
yeah.
had to guess.
It's me. I talk about the Beatles a lot. I'm
You're
wearing
wearing
my
a
Sergeant.
Sgt.
I'm wearing my
Pepper's
Sergeant Pepper
sweatshirt,
sweatshirt
yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
They're my favorite band. I have had to fight myself to not be like, well, the music I'm listening to is the Beatles, because I could say that every week.
yeah.
But back to the conspiracy. So I believe at the height of their popularity in the 60s, I believe in 66, Paul McCartney got to kind of a heavy car crash. And that led people to believe that he had died, and in a joint operation between the Beatles and MI5, which is the intelligence agency in England, they found someone who would make a suitable body double and just replaced him. The Paul McCartney that we have today supposedly is not the same one who was in the Beatles from 59 to 66.
so he's a different one. Is
just a
it
different Paul McCartney.
He's not like a clone or anything.
Not a clone.
Because like
Just like a doppelganger.
Because the clone theory is also a very popular one, but no, it's a doppelganger.
yeah, I would think it would be like a clone theory where it's like, oh, we got this DNA from Paul McCartney and made
Yeah.
a new Paul McCartney.
How many Paul McCartneys are you inviting
Dude.
to the next function?
Dude.
At least, you know what,
At
4
least-
Pauls
at least
and at
4
least a
Pauls.
George. At least one George. You gotta have a George, balance it out.
Yeah.
But it goes further than that, to the point where Beatles fans started like coming up with clues from their music. So in their minds, John, George, and Ringo were so grief-stricken that their friend had died, and they just had to replace them and act like it was normal, that they started leaving hints and clues throughout their music, which is really funny. So a lot of people think that so Billy Shears,
Yeah.
which is what they just a name they dropped during the Sgt. Pepper album, first couple of songs. They think that they found a man named Billy Shears in England
Oh,
that looked surprisingly like Paul McCartney,
dang.
and so they trained him to play the bass and to sing songs.
So weird.
And somehow he sounds exactly like Paul McCartney.
Right. I don't know if I
And,
buy
and
that.
people are like, oh, his face shape has changed, his nose has changed, his lips have changed. Like, oh, that's clearly a different guy.
But could also be plastic surgery.
Well,
like
one of the real reasons why, and another reason why they grew mustaches for Sgt. Pepper is because of the car crash. Paul McCartney had a scar on his lip that was pretty fresh, so the way that they cover that up is by growing the mustaches and changing. Like, one of the reasons why they chose the Sgt. Pepper theme.
gotcha.
But also, if you had a scar on your lip, you wouldn't really be able to grow hair there.
Well, if you look closely, you can tell that he's combing some of it over.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a scar there.
So it goes deep. They really thought of everything.
Oh, and it goes further than that. So then, so people theorize that in the lyrics book from Sgt. Pepper, on the back of one of them, it's Paul. Sorry, not Paul. Yeah, Paul's facing back, and the other 3 are facing forward, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, he's dead." In the Sgt. Pepper cover or album art, he's the only one holding a black instrument.
So
I think he's holding a clarinet while the rest of them are holding different ones. People think that there's a the guy who designed the album cover. There's a little guitar made out of roses. People think that if you it says like it's a funeral procession. Like that's like it's supposed to say like Paul, and then like if you the cover of this drum head here, which is on the album, they say that if you bisect it and reflect it, that it's the day he died. And it goes so people have gone extensive lengths to make up shit about this.
Wow.
So and then it goes further into like for Magical Mystery Tour, the movie, their subsequent album, during the Your Mother Should Know sequence, which is a song off that album, they're all wearing like white suits, and John, George, and Ringo are wearing red roses, and Paul's wearing a black one. Well, okay.
super weird.
Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
At the end of Strawberry Fields Forever, there's that like just jargon of sound and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And there's a
Oh, you made us listen to that once. You said this.
I did.
Yeah, that was.
Do you remember?
Weird.
Do you remember the portion of John Lennon? It's because it's John Lennon, and he's just going like, "Ha."
Oh yeah.
And people are like, "Dude, he's saying Paul is dead." He said it right there. Well, no. If you listen to the actual recording, it's him saying "cranberry sauce," and they somehow got Paul is dead out of that.
Dude.
No,
That is funny.
What are you saying? And
So
like
weird,
on the
man.
Let It Be album, Paul's the only headshot with a red background for some reason. On the Abbey Road cover, they're like, "Oh, it's a funeral procession," where John is like God or the priest.
Because is he at the head of them?
Because it goes, I believe, John, Ringo, Paul, George, in that order, crossing Abbey Road. So John is like the priest or God because he's wearing all white, and then Ringo is like the funeral director because he's wearing a certain suit, and then because Paul is barefoot, which is apparent, I think in some cultures barefoot or like leaving your shoes before you die is part of that. I think I'm not certain, so I'm not gonna like speak 100% like I know. But he's barefoot in that, so people are like, "Oh, he's the dead man." And then George Harrison was wearing a denim suit.
Okay.
So like, "Oh, and he's the Undertaker."
Nice.
But like this theory kind of falls apart when you think about the other two Beatles that are dead, like actually dead.
Yeah.
Like why wouldn't they replace them?
Right.
Well, because technically they died after the Beatles had broken up.
After they broke up.
Oh.
So what, it didn't
So there
matter
was
at
no
that-
need to replace John
Didn't
Lennon
matter
after
at
he
that
got
point.
shot.
Yeah.
He's just dead now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was just John Lennon to everybody.
Yeah. So
Or
that's
maybe they're not dead either, and they just wanted to be dead.
Maybe it's like Hitler.
Bro, have you guys seen Yesterday, the movie?
God, that movie fucking sucked.
No,
I'm
no.
sorry.
John Lennon shows up at the end, and he's just like some guy living in a house like on a beach somewhere, and it's kind
Quick synopsis of the movie Yesterday. A guy gets into he wants to, he's an aspiring musician, not going anywhere. He kind of sucks.
Yep.
He gets hit by a bus, and I think lightning strikes at the same time, and then suddenly he's the only person on the planet who remembers the
knows-
Beatles
who
because
remembers
they've
the
stopped
Beatles.
existing.
Yeah.
So he's then like, "Oh, I could launch my music career by just re-releasing all the Beatles songs." So he starts doing that, and suddenly it's like
it's a very casual watch, I would say.
It's really- it's-
it's not very.
It's like a comedy.
it's supposed to be.
kind of it's just a casual movie.
But
I would say like,
at one
it's-
point in the movie, he's like struggling. He's like, "I've stolen these songs.
Yeah.
It's bad." And then like,
the plot is very predictable.
Ed Sheeran is there for some
Ed
reason.
Sheeran is there. Yeah.
Checks out.
Yeah, and
Does
and
he play Ed Sheeran?
He does.
Yeah,
he plays
as
himself.
himself.
Yeah.
Nice.
But at one point, he gets given an address, and it turns out in this alternate reality he's been shoved into, that John Lennon is still alive. And at one point, he's like, "How old are you?" He's like, 78, and he's like, "You made it to 78." And it's so
Holy
stupid, and
it kind of like, I don't know.
kind of takes the piss out of it.
It kind of screws with John Lennon's memory too, because like, I mean, he was shot, wasn't he?
He died very tragically,
Yeah.
and it's like, okay, cool. There's John Lennon, I guess.
Yeah, he's
Thanks.
back. He's back, baby.
Yeah, it's if you wanna, if that's a movie where you can get a little inebriated. and just turn your mind off and enjoy it because it's not a very good movie otherwise.
I would say
Nice.
so. Yeah, it's fun watch. But
It's super fun to watch, but it's just not a good movie, and it kind of pisses on the Beatles' legacy
it
as a
does
whole.
kind of
For
piss
sure.
on the Beatles.
So that's why I'm not a huge fan of it. But
Yeah.
Holy cow.
but back to Paul is Dead. People think that there's just been a bunch of like theories and stuff. And, like I think also there's a license plate on the Abbey Road album cover that people were like, oh, it's the day Paul died and stuff. And there are a bunch of other clues I'm forgetting.
So weird.
The theory to me kind of falls apart when Paul McCartney has a very distinguished voice and is a very talented musician. I'm sorry, you trained a different person to sound
exactly like him.
in the 60s.
Yeah.
And also trained him to play all those musical instruments, and then also taught him how to write songs
That sounds just like the old Beatles song.
sound like oh, it's like yeah, it's a bunch of nonsense. I don't believe it for a second. At one point, Paul released an album that's its title is "Paul is Alive" because he thinks it's funny. He thinks it's a good joke.
He's playing with the fans.
But like I like it from the point where it's like you have to stretch so far to see the clues.
Yeah.
But it's like it's fun just like some people think Paul is legitimately dead and he died and he died and he's just dead. It's like no he's not, but he might be someday.
It's cool that a band that you're super passionate about at like its baseline for just their musical interest also has this like crazy lore. I mean, they are essentially the most popular band that's ever existed. I mean, again, that might be up for contention, but they were definitely one of the most influential bands that ever existed.
And people have been talking about that since they've been the Beatles.
Yeah.
And we could talk about that. I know I want to talk about that.
They're influential in the same way that Michael Jackson was influential, the same way that Black Sabbath was influential.
The way that Elvis was influential, the way that, XYZ,
Yeah.
we could keep going.
The originators of a genre.
And or just like a lot of people think about the Beatles and then the fact that they pushed music technology because they were so creative and wanted to do so many different things is that they created new techniques to record and stuff, and they did. And even to this day with like the remastering of the Let It Be movie and the the inner working of the Get Back project, it's like, yeah, they're still pushing that boundary because they were the Beatles. We could be talking about that until the end of time, though. It's already been said before.
Yeah.
But that's part of the reason why I like them so much is that there's just so much
There's lore
outside of their music, because the main criticism I hear of the Beatles is the music is boring. Well, yeah, it's what, we're going on 60 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Over 60 years old, actually.
It's old music at this point.
poop. Like
old as poop, huh?
So, well, yeah,
That is a phrase I've never heard once before in my
So it's
entire
like-
life,
so-
ever.
so if you don't like the Beatles music, yeah, that's fine. It's just, but no one can take away from the impact they had on
Right.
music as a whole.
For sure.
I think we said that in the first episode.
Yeah, and you know what? It will not be the last time it is said.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
We'll say it
I'm
every
here.
episode. We'll say it every episode.
I'll find a way to get music in somehow.
Yeah.
Every time.
But I've got about the Beatles enough, I think. Adam,
Hey.
did you have a theory? Or
I did.
conspiracy?
I have a couple. I'm definitely like, they're not about like my passions. Like obviously you like love the Beatles like for what they are. These are just things that I found cool. So as we were sitting here talking, I remembered how I first got into conspiracies when I was a kid, and I was on I frequented YouTube. There was a channel, and you guys might have heard of this channel. Have you guys ever heard of the YouTube channel? I don't know if it's still running. But in the late 2010s or like early 2010s, it's called Dark Five. Did you guys ever hear about this? They would put five different conspiracies or like ideas. They would range from things to like things that you can find on the deep web to like top five, Dark Five creepy pastas or things like that. They had one, and a lot of these would be about conspiracies. They had an episode that was on like ocean top five sounds, unexplained sounds from the ocean, and one of them was this thing called the bloop. The bloop. Have you guys heard about this?
Yeah, the bloop.
The bloop.
I hear it every time I go to the
By the
bathroom.
way, Dark Five still posts.
Do
to
they?
this day. Yeah,
My
they're
God.
still going strong. So
Nice. Cool, man. Well, good for Dark Five. Shout out Dark Five.
yeah.
But the bloop is essentially an unexplained phenomena that was picked up by an underwater microphone. Some sort of, and I don't know what the microphone was for, if it was to study some sort of oceanic phenomena, but it picked up this really, really low frequency sound. It was incredibly loud, and it was also incredibly far away from the microphone. I think this microphone was somewhere around South America, so this noise would have been heard from somewhere in the Pacific Ocean, and it was probably, I'm spitballing here, I don't remember, but it's probably like 1,000 miles away from this microphone. And relative to the volume of the sound that it was picked up at and the distance from which it occurred relative to the microphone, people theorize that this was either a massive, absolutely massive sea creature that has yet to be discovered, which is the cool version. The uncool version is that it was a massive, like, mile-wide piece of ice shelf that slid off into the ocean.
That is still pretty cool, though.
That is pretty cool. It's a really cool event that, you know, that regularly occurs, unfortunately, due to, you know, some global warming, perhaps. And
there is a conspiracy for global warming. What a bunch of nonsense!
What a bunch of fucking bullshit.
Planet's warming. Then why is there snow? Checkmate. Gotcha.
Oh my god. So yeah,
It was recorded in 1997 by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric
NORAD, yeah.
Administration.
NORAD. That's
what
an awesome
does it
name.
say about it?
It was detected by hydrophones.
Yeah, underwater
It was,
microphones.
Across the Pacific Ocean, 5,000 miles apart.
Yes.
So
we are never gonna figure out.
So they don't. I don't
made
think they
that.
know exactly where it occurred, or they won't say. But a lot of the people who have been really involved with this theory theorize that it was just a major piece of ice shelf, like huge, like multiple miles wide piece of ice.
What kind of animal do you think it would have been if it was?
If
it
it
was like an unknown creature.
Let me tell you, if I had it my way,
Big shark.
if I had it my way, it would be the Alaskan bullworm.
The Alaskan bullworm.
That's what I would love it to be. I would love it to be some sort of giant cephalopod creature.
Just some big tube swimming in the water.
Yeah, dude, that's all we are. Just big tubes swimming in a pond, you know.
You know, that's.
I love the bloop. The bloop was definitely it's like my Roman Empire. I think about the bloop probably like 3 to 4 times a year.
So what? This would have been like 10-year-old Adam hearing about it.
Oh, dude, I was like, oh my god, the bloop.
Why aren't we talking about
The
this?
bloop. Why are we not studying the bloop in school?
Excuse me, Mr. Teacher Man.
So that was really cool. The other main one that I wanted to talk about, I have to pull this up on my phone because I don't know enough about it, but I think it's really interesting. Is the Denver airport conspiracy. So the conspiracy the conspiracy is that the Denver airport is essentially a hub on this side of the world for the Illuminati because of how big it is and how far away it was when it was constructed in relation to the last airport that was in Denver. So this is a snippet. This is from Wikipedia. This is not a reliable source of information. Let me see if I can find the first clip. So conspiracies concerning the airport are inspired by the type of art, unusual architecture, and construction problems started shortly after its completion. There was an expansion of this theory that came along with the internet. On television shows such as Conspiracy Theory with Jesse Ventura, which I've never heard of. It sounds like that would have aired in the same area as like Joe Rogan Fear Factory.
Yeah,
probably. Yeah. It's basically it really started with the time capsule that they have at the airport. It showcases an inscribed plaque that has the Freemason symbol in the words New World Airport Commission. It's a group that has never existed, prompting the conspiracy theory that the airport is controlled by Freemasons and it's linked to the New World Order or other secret societies. Of course, people have tried to debunk this since then.
Don't they like play it up at the airport as well?
There was at one time they had like a gargoyle like animatronic that was like home of the Illuminati is like a phrase that it would say. They subsequently removed that and then replaced it with a gargoyle that was kind of muted in what it would say. It didn't say anything like that. So that's kind of weird that they would like play into that and then remove it, because if it were true, if it were not true, why would you need to remove that? You know?
I think another part of it is that the layout of the actual airport, isn't it kind of screwy?
It doesn't make any sense because there's one terminal. There's one like huge terminal. I thought I could be wrong, but I thought the whole airport, there's not like multiple terminals. It's just one huge terminal. So it's just weird. There's like a bunch of tunnels. Again, it being so far away from everything doesn't really make a lot of sense either.
Yeah.
But yeah, people think that there could be the Illuminati has taken people hostage. They're holding them the tunnel system.
There's theories of like Nazism
Yeah.
and like alien languages and
Yeah. A lot of people.
flat earthers. A lot of flat earthers.
That was another one that I was going to talk about. I was going to talk about the ice wall theory and like the world outside of the ice wall with like the different like the 9 realms and stuff like that.
If you found out the world was flat, what would that serve to you personally?
I don't know. I don't understand why people think it to be flat. I mean,
Like, and even if it is flat, what does it matter?
right?
Yeah, why?
It's just flat.
Like,
do we care?
what do I, well, okay, cool. I'm gonna go to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. I think the Denver airport one is a really cool theory. I don't know. There's a lot of other ones that I was going to look up, like some honorable mentions. I was going to talk about tachyon particles, which are subatomic particles that are theorized to go faster than the speed of light when they move, but we haven't discovered them yet. Mm-hmm. And if we were to discover them, it would literally reinvent the way we think about quantum and
modern physics.
Modern physics, yeah. There was another one I was going to talk about, clockwork elves. Mm-hmm. When people take DMT trips, they often report the same sightings of weird little creatures, and it leads people to believe that DMT is really just like a key to another dimension, and you just have to take enough of it. But that's
and isn't that dimension like a higher?
Yes,
like opening your third eye. Or
yes,
yeah,
basically.
You're trying to get there. And
okay.
Yeah.
Yourself,
yeah. There's a lot of really cool ones out there, but like some of the ones that I wanted to talk about, I just cannot find anything on because they're so deep cut. Yeah. I was going to talk about The Simpsons too, how The Simpsons claim to like
Simpsons for sure.
How they've been like
people
accurately predicting
how people like don't really know when the first episode, like they don't know anything about when they were recorded. They have theories. Like people know that because they started launching in like the late 80s, I think.
89. I think.
Yeah.
89.
So, but people don't know when they were recorded. People theorize that a lot of the seasons were recorded all at the same time and then launched, like aired as normal seasons
Episodic.
do. Yes, in an episodic fashion. And a lot of the people also talk about how the cast never ages at all. And they just like, oh, that's really weird for a story like that to include characters that don't age for that time period. You know, you would think that they would make it a little bit more chronological.
And as a Simpsons fan, the number of times they've done like backstory episodes is like it changes every like 5 to 10 years.
Yep.
Yeah.
And to lend some credit to that theory, if you want to think of the Simpsons as like this fucked up like, oh, like they become the stories they tell, like, oh, that's really cool. The reality of it is probably just the writers running out of ideas.
For sure.
It's been upwards of 40 years at this point.
Yeah.
Longest running TV show ever, I think.
Yeah, it is.
Wow.
And I think they're trying to end it.
Really?
Yeah, I've heard snippets on the I've seen clips on like TikTok and stuff where it's like, oh, this is like the last episode. This is the series finale. But also, if that really was the series finale, it's a really wimpy bang for the longest running show to go down on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Are they still putting out episodes?
They are.
They are.
Wow.
I think they're
On Disney Plus.
I think they're all on Disney Plus.
Disney Plus.
And
What a pick.
I haven't watched a single because like
episode.
for me, The Simpsons. Obviously, you got those like first 6 seasons where it's like this is like the cream of the crop,
Yeah.
and then the era that I grew up watching because I was a big Simpsons fan. The era that I grew up watching would have been like the late 2000s, 2010s, and you can tell like especially like before and after the movie.
The movie came out in 2009, 2007?
7, 8,
Yeah.
somewhere around there.
Great movie.
Great movie. Why did they have to animate Bart's wiener?
That is an awesome question.
Why'd they do that? They didn't have to.
Yeah, I remember seeing that for the first time. I was like, oh my god,
it's
there's
there.
a yellow dick.
It's just right there.
There's yellow dong.
And also the implication that that's an 8-year-old boy.
Weird. But it's the Simpsons, man. They've always been unfiltered.
Yeah. It's saying everyone's like, well, Family Guy's more edgy. It's like, well, the Simpsons came first.
Yeah, for real.
They did all that first.
Who's your favorite Simpsons character?
I was thinking about this the other day, actually. I don't really... Because, like, oh, man. Like, Frank is always really... Frank scenes and stuff where, like, because he's dang it. I can't remember who's Professor Frank is riffing off of. Because it's most of the characters in... The
Riffing
Simpsons.
off of like a real life.
Yeah. So like there's
Krusty's like the Ronald McDonald.
Yeah,
dude. That's
like,
my favorite character.
And like Krusty's a good one.
Yeah.
Also the lore they've done with Krusty, where it's like, well, actually, yeah, he's an Orthodox Jew, and like his dad wanted him to be a rabbi, and it's like, wow, that's actually really deep.
It's a really fucked up pipeline you can go down.
Oh, and it's because and also at this point, like, what's canon anymore? Because it's been going for 40 years, and there's been an origin episode every like 15.
Yep.
seasons or so. So it's like, damn, okay, I guess this is true now. But
Yeah.
I love The Simpsons. The Simpsons were my go-to show. To be like, I'm gonna be mindless and just put this on.
In 50 years, nobody's gonna know what it is. It might be, and like it's gonna be like the Looney Tunes for people in 50 years. It's like something you know of, but you never actually watched thoroughly.
I remember when Homer tried to jump Springfield Gorge. Okay, Grandpa, let's get you to bed.
All right, Grandpa, let's go to bed now.
But yeah, anyway, conspiracies. Those are cool.
Yeah.
It's this is more than likely not going to be the last time we talk about them.
No, I
Because there are so many, we could sit here and talk about them for ages.
Yeah, dude.
However, it gets to the point where who wants to sit here for more than an hour and listen to us yap about random nonsense?
Exactly.
The loyal listeners.
You're right.
Our
true
loyal
jarheads. Comment, like if you are a true jarhead.
Absolutely.
Send us some fan mail.
Yeah,
we don't have
no,
an
please
address for
don't.
fan mail.
We
Please don't
have
send
a
us
PO
anything.
box yet, yeah.
If there's ever a want and a need, sure,
That
go
would be
for it.
I don't
Terrifying.
think that would be a good idea because like I've heard like especially like what was that? Mail Time with Smosh.
Yeah.
Like, they got sent so much crap that was just like
But it's because they were using their real address.
yeah.
Right.
So
And
yeah,
it's just,
of course they got nonsense because
Yeah.
it was the 2000s and it was unfiltered and people
Uh-huh.
are awful. So of course they got
Yeah.
glitter bombs and like probably doo doo
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Cold Ones has done it too, but like they're the type to
Go through
They
the
lean
mail.
into
go
that.
through awful
Of
boxes
just
gross,
random nonsense, and
disgusting
shit.
things.
Yeah.
But
So, but
Cool. Good way to wrap that up.
oh yeah, for sure. I thought we'd try something new this week. We're gonna do music we've been listening to after the main segment of the show.
Yeah.
So Adam, if you wanted to start us off this week, what have you been listening to?
Okay. Let me think here. Well,
Put you on your toes, big guy.
new Kendrick album came out. Did you guys have a
I did
chance?
not know. I
Surprise
thought
album dropped
I
out
thought they
of
were
nowhere.
talking about the songs. Like, no, he put a full album out,
He did.
like out of nowhere.
Yeah, it was. He hasn't put anything out since the Drake diss, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not a huge Kendrick fan. I do listen to it because it's popular.
Was that over the summer?
I don't know. Honestly, I really don't
It
know.
was this year. I know it was current.
Yeah, so then he dropped this album, and he has some really interesting flows on this album. Like, I do listen to enough rap to be able to say, when something is like different. He's one of the songs, Hey Now. It's really interesting. And the song prior to this on the album, there's a lot of call and answer between him and this like disembodied voice that he is also playing, but it's like God. So he's like talking to God kind of. It's really, really interesting. That one sounds really good. The whole album, I've only listened to about half of it, but it sounds really good. It's a really good listen. I was at work last night and this guy had a Damn hoodie on and I was like, oh, did you listen to the new Kendrick album? And he was like, what? I was like, yeah, new Kendrick album. It came out today. It was a surprise. He was like, no fucking way, really? I was like, yeah, you didn't know? You have a Kendrick hoodie on. And he's like, no, I don't know. I didn't know that, man.
So then you hit him with like the name 3 songs.
Fake fan. No, I don't.
fake fan.
Yeah, so it was good. The other album that I have been listening to recently, it's a release from a band that's from Champaign, someone that we went to high school with. He has a death metal band called Stagnant. That band just dropped an EP this week. It's just called Demo 2024. They dropped a demo last year. It was a 2-song demo, and I don't remember. I think they dropped that in April or May of last year. And it was good. It was definitely a little unrefined as far as production value goes, but they re-released those 2 songs and then added 3 songs onto this 5-song EP. It is awesome. It sounds a lot like one of my favorite bands of all time, Sanguisugabog, which is just like dumb, like down-tuned, stupid,
spell it?
like, huh?
Can you spell it?
Can I spell Sanguisugabog? Yes. SANSUGUISUGABOGG, Sanguisugabog.
You know what? I really doubted if you could. You proved me wrong.
Yeah,
My bad, man.
I actually saw that band. I saw his band play in St. Louis. I think it was in February of last year. It was outside in February, and I did not know it was going to be outside. It was freezing my ass off. But he put on a really good show, man. That band was really, really cool, and I really hope they end up playing somewhere locally again. Yeah, but Stagnant, Demo 2024, and the new Kendrick album, which I unfortunately cannot remember the name of off the top of my head. So
Let's say it's recent enough. I mean, by the time this comes out, it'll be a little
people
less
will know.
recent.
People will know.
People know.
Yeah.
His name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, James, what about you? What have you been listening to?
So, a little backstreaker, I guess. My brother RJ, talked about him a handful of times at this point, has this really funny, and I don't think he does it on purpose, but he keeps doing it where he'll be like, "Oh, this is a new song. This is a song I want you to listen to." Like, "Oh, okay, awesome." It's like, "Oh, like are the artists, are they still making music?" It's like, no, they're dead." It's like, "Oh, awesome, thanks RJ."
Nice.
It happened with MF Doom. It happened with Nujabes, and it happened with this current band. Well, not current anymore. They have since unfortunately passed. But this band that I've been listening to a lot recently it's called Hers.
I don't know. How do you spell it?
So Hers, just Her.
Hers.
Yeah,
Hers,
Hers,
okay.
like the pronoun.
Okay. Oh, hers. Okay.
Yes, sorry, not Hearse like what you get driven around in when you're dead. No, Hers like HER apostrophe S.
You guys,
Hers.
you guys continue talking. I've got to take a little gamer's room break.
Yeah, you gotta use a little gamer's room. We've been talking long enough at this point.
Yeah.
But Hers tragically passed, I think, in a automobile accident. I think in 2019.
Dang.
And it's the running joke amongst Hers fans is like, haha, all we talk about is the fact that they're dead.
What?
Or like when new people discover the band is like, you want to hear a fun fact? Oh, they're dead.
They're
it's like,
dead.
It's
You
like,
can't listen to any new music.
That's
put out.
awesome. But I think they released a handful of albums and a couple singles. But there's the one that I've been listening to a lot is called Harvey. It's I don't want to say lo-fi, but excuse me, that was gross. It was indie, I think is an appropriate term, but it's all indie music.
Is it like slow or is it like fast indie?
There's
like fast paced.
It's faster indie.
Faster.
I highly recommend giving them a listen.
Yeah.
I think their album's called like Songs of Hers. Most of them are very good. There's one or two filler songs or like songs that are like not for me, but someone else out there will like them a lot. My personal favorites are Speed Racer, What Once Was, and then Harvey. Those are my three favorite songs of theirs. I'd highly recommend giving them a listen when you have a chance. And then to complement that, Mac DeMarco.
Oh,
I think you know. He's more of a household name at this point.
Yeah, he's pretty popular.
His music to me is very reminiscent of George Harrison's. Especially with his guitar work and the way he makes it, the way he plays it, the sound he comes out with. His more recent albums are a lot more produced.
Yeah.
Before it was a lot of just like guitar and what drags you in, partner?
Hi.
I went wee waz.
Did you make Kaka and Wee Waz or just Wee Waz?
Just
Just Wee Waz.
Just Wee Waz.
He'd be gone longer if it was Kaka.
Yeah.
Ryan, your hand soap smells amazing. It smells really good.
Yeah, it's a good
the
one.
way.
I like that one.
Talking about Hers for a little bit. Now I'm talking about Mac DeMarco.
Mac DeMarco.
Okay, nice, cool.
Yeah,
man.
you know,
I do know Mac DeMarco.
Like we just
Yep.
mentioned, Mac DeMarco is a lot more of a household name.
Yep.
But his album 2, the
Nice.
number is a big favorite of mine. But also
Yeah.
This Old Dog and Here Comes the Cowboy are also very good albums of his. So just pick any songs off of those; they're all very fun to listen to.
Heck
Nice.
yeah.
Ryan, I believe it's your turn talking about music, big guy.
I listened to that one that you talked about last time, Chromacopia. with
Oh, Tyler?
the
What'd you
Creator.
think?
I
Tyler the
liked it.
Creator?
I
It's
liked
good, right? It's
It
interesting.
was great listening to it while doing the dishes because it was just like
So like all over the place.
yeah, it was very cool though. It was like I enjoyed the listen.
Yeah,
It
like
was-
musically, I don't think he goes for concept albums. Like he just doesn't. I don't think. But the music, how do I say this? Musically, there's a concept there that he likes to take and kind of pull apart and really like take it by threads and say like, okay, this is all a part of the same rope, but they're
Yeah.
all so different. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I don't know.
I definitely could see the connections throughout the songs and stuff, and it was just fun to listen to,
Yeah.
like front to back, and that's how albums should be. in
Would
my
you
opinion.
say it's a no skip album? You are familiar with the concept of a no skip?
No skip meaning like, oh, I should skip this one song because it sucks.
No,
you would play you would not
No,
skip
a no
anything.
skip is that this album is so good that there's no bad songs on it. I can listen to it front to back. No skip.
I think I think so.
Nice.
I think all of his music is like that though, where it's just like very well produced.
He
So
goes
are
through
you-
eras.
Yeah.
Are you saying that he doesn't miss?
I don't think he misses.
He does not miss.
He
fellas.
can't-
He is the
can't
creator,
miss.
so he is.
He
Tyler, the
creates.
creator.
He
He
creates.
creates.
I think
Yeah.
even now, in retrospect, that pilot episode is rough.
We are
That's a rough go.
we are
man.
so far ahead of what we did 2 months ago.
We've got the same microphone. Because did we have 3 different
Well,
microphones?
We had 3 different microphones for the first
Yep.
podcast.
We were holding them,
We were holding
so
them.
our audio quality probably differed every 30
yeah.
seconds.
Yep.
Yeah.
We were
I wasn't
holding-
holding mine because it was a boom mic.
Yes.
So
So you
but
had
You
to
weren't
stand.
even using a real. You weren't even using a real mic. It was
I
a
wasn't.
boom mic.
I wasn't using a USB mic. No, I was. Yeah.
So now we have all the same. These microphones are all the same. We've got a more consistent setup.
Guys, we talked about soundproofing today.
We did talk about soundproofing.
We're getting there,
Yeah,
all
these
right?
are very
Intense.
adult, advanced things.
Don't
Most
worry.
podcasters never even get to the camera setup being
Yeah,
the same.
exactly.
Or having the same mic. So we
Yeah.
are one step ahead of
Say
where we should be.
for this little rinky-dink production we're putting together, I think we're doing just
We're doing
fine.
pretty okay. Homegrown.
We're doing all right.
Homegrown. Anybody like homegrown things?
That's us. That's us right here.
Alrighty. Well, thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to rate and subscribe and interact with our socials. You can find us at Thought Jar Pod on TikTok and Instagram. We stream this on Spotify, and the YouTube version is on YouTube.
Yeah.
In case you would think
What?
in case you would think to check there. If you have thoughts that you'd like to submit to our jar, leave a comment on your favorite conspiracy and what you'd like for us to talk about next. Talk about some conspiracies. Let us know. Let us know if you've ever heard about any of these, because I think I had no idea about the, what was it, the Leah
Michelle
Michelle.
not
I
being
did not know about the Paul is dead one. I really didn't.
Yeah, I didn't.
This is from so long ago, yeah. But
Yeah.
It's and also conspiracy is something that I will never get tired of talking
Yeah.
about.
People like to conject about things that they don't understand but aren't like immediately harmful to them.
The human mind loves the need to create a reason why things are happening.
yeah,
Yeah.
to find a reason for the mystery, man.
And that's what
That's-
Mystery Men with Ben
Yeah.
Stiller.
Yeah.
That's what we do here on the Thought Jar. We just like to take thoughts, pull them out of the
jar.
Yeah,
And then talk about mystery men.
yeah.
Yeah.
With Ben Stiller,
Ben Stiller.
like Zootopia with Ben Stiller.
He was in.
Was that no? What was the movie?
Zootopia.
Oh, no.
Madagascar. I
No,
think.
no, no.
Are you talking about Zoolander?
Oh, Zoolander. Yeah. Zootopia.
Yeah, man.
Ben Stiller's in the new
Judy
Zootopia
Hopps
movie,
and
guys.
Zoolander.
Yeah, Judy
Zoolander.
Hopps and-
Dude, what a crossover.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, thanks for sticking with us through this lengthy episode where we talk about conspiracies and things that aren't real or might be real. And we'll catch you on the next episode of the Thought Jar Podcast.
Thanks for listening.